49ers in Denver, Sunday night football. It was not a scintillating affair. 11-10. Did I not refresh the scoreboard? 11-10, the final score. We'll get into everything that happened Sunday night. Why did the 49ers lose to the Denver Broncos? Why are the 49ers sitting at 1-2 right now in the season? And we might even be able to give out a few game balls in this one coming up on tonight's live episode of Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers live post-game rapid react episode. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker here with you at BD Peacock at Eric_Crocker. Thanks for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Yeah, we did get started a little bit late. Apologies for that one. What did we just watch, Croc? We saw like an amazing amount of punt coverage in this football game. I think we can take that away from it for sure. The 49ers spent a lot of offseason resources on special teams. That looks a lot better right now. Mitch Wishnowsky just got re-upped, earning his $13 million 4-year contract extension. But we've also got to talk about why the 49ers were only able to muster 10 points, 2 scores in this football game. And to me, my takeaway, if I see a lot of people saying that they miss me on Twitter. Yeah, I miss you guys on Twitter as well. I don't know if I'm ever going to get.
Yeah, hey, stop. Yeah, y'all can, and I mean this in a respectful way. Y'all don't got to DM me anymore about let me know he's been hacked. I know. Peacock is hacked. He ain't on Twitter right now.
And if you know somebody at Twitter that is better than their customer support has been so far, they're basically like, hey, feel free to open a new account. Nope, that ain't happening. So if they don't want me to be on their platform, I guess I won't be on their platform anymore. So that's what's going on with that. But I appreciate all the folks that are worried about me out there. It was actually probably a pretty good week to not be on Twitter with all the Trey Lance broken leg stuff. And now we're seeing the Jimmy G show, Croc. And for a lot of the Jimmy G haters, this is the kind of performance that they were worried about leading those San Francisco 49ers, and why so many people were excited about young Trey Lance and the ceiling that could be raised with him at quarterback. Do we blame Jimmy Garoppolo, first of all, for the 10 points? Do we blame Kyle Shanahan? Because really, to me, when I look at this game, it was clear and obvious the reasons why the 49ers lost: 3 turnovers and 1 for 10 on third downs.
Are you making excuses for Jimmy Garoppolo?
Well, Jimmy Garoppolo was a big reason. He had 1 turnover himself, and he had 2 turnovers himself, and he was the guy that was quarterback on many of those third down passes. So that's definitely not a pass for Jimmy Garoppolo. You have to, if you point at anybody, you got to start with head coach, the guy calling the plays, and the guy throwing the football at quarterback if you are inept on third downs. And the 49ers were inept on third downs in this football game.
I think everybody's going to want me to point the finger at Kyle Shanahan. I saw the chat when I got in here. First of all, I was live on Bleacher Report, all right, but I saw the chat when I got in here, and there were a lot of people talking about, oh, Kyle Shanahan, overrated, etc. And then in the same sense as Jimmy Garoppolo, if you think Jimmy Garoppolo played bad, if you think he was poor, not good, I feel like there's kind of a built-in excuse for Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan can't go out there and throw it himself. He can't go out there and convert it himself. However, Kyle is seeing the field and seeing the plays called, he can't do it himself. So he needs his quarterback to execute to some extent. And if you can't execute the way that the gameplay is called or the play is called, then be able to do some off-script stuff. And unfortunately, that's just not Jimmy Garoppolo, right? Jimmy Garoppolo, and there was somebody from the Miami Dolphins fan base, he hit me and said, does Jimmy not want to throw to open receivers? And I said, listen, here's the thing with Jimmy. If you call the play and it's executed exactly how you see fit, and the guy is open right now, whoever is supposed to be open, he will throw it to that guy and do well throwing it to him. But if he has to veer away from that at all, it can get choppy, it can get weird, it can get ugly. And at some point, dude, I need my quarterback to make me right even when I'm wrong. And that's not Jimmy Garoppolo. And we talked about that. And we talked about the 49ers and their Super Bowl chances. And I felt like, hey, man, the 49ers are better with Jimmy Garoppolo right now. But if you want to win the Super Bowl, maybe they're not, right? Tonight was ugly. And he didn't have my back with me saying that. But I do think that it showed kind of my level of thinking and why I felt that way. So it's hard for me to just put it smack dab on Kyle Shanahan because I feel like, man, like if my quarterback is just not very competent in his play, it's going to be ugly. And I think that's what we saw tonight. One conversion on third down, if I'm not mistaken. And I think I saw that very late in the game. And I said, there's no way that's a real stat when they put that on the TV screen. There's no way to that point that the 49ers were 0 for 9, I believe, on third down. Or 0 for 8, 0 for 9. No way.
Because they ended up 1 for 10 on third downs. And actually, Jimmy made a couple of nice plays in the fourth quarter. And I was thinking about you, Croc, because you always talk about how, not counting the playoffs, Jimmy G is such a good fourth quarter quarterback that you would.
He's got me eating crow right now on Twitter because I said you're not on Twitter right now, but I said, if I've known one thing about Jimmy Garoppolo, like you can't give him 2 chances. Like you give him 1 and he fails. Like, all right, but he has another chance. 49ers are going to go down the field and win this game. Well, they lost, and now I look like an idiot. And people are like, Croc, delete this. I'm not going to delete it. I'm gonna stand on that. But he makes me look stupid right now. He's making me look stupid right now. I'm not very happy with Jimmy Garoppolo. It wasn't even all Jimmy. It was, Wilson fumbled, but it's still it's not a good look.
Yeah, and it's a good point. Many people have pointed out not only the turnovers but the safety as well, and that gave the Denver Broncos.
I think you need to elaborate a little bit more on that.
That gave the Denver Broncos points, and the Denver Broncos couldn't score either. It's a 10-9 game. The 10-9 49ers win without those 2 extra points that Jimmy Garoppolo gave them. And it's because what's crazy to me is, in the first quarter, if I was on Twitter, I'd have been tweeting out, the 49ers are about to boat race these dudes. Didn't it look that way? The 49ers were dominating the game. They went right down the field. It looked so good. Nice long 37-yard Jeff Wilson run. Touchdown pass to Ayuk, 7-0. Broncos couldn't do anything. It was like, this is about to look exactly like the Seattle Seahawks game. The 49ers are about to blow them out. And then they couldn't score again until that field goal late. And that's what confuses me about this game. And the folks that point to Kyle Shanahan that I think do have a little bit of a point is, okay, if you're not able to get off the field on third downs and your third down plays are too long and too difficult for your quarterback and you're not able to convert these things, then why you only run the ball 13 times with your running backs in this game? 12 carries for 75 yards. That's a 6.3 clip for Jeff Wilson. He only ran it 12 times. Jordan Mason in there. Jordan Mason, congratulations, NFL player. He got 1 NFL carry now for 7 yards, and that was it. He never came back. Croc, do you think Kyle should have gone to the run game a little heavier, make those third downs a little shorter, and maybe shorten that football game, and the 49ers could have got out there with maybe a 10-5 win?
I think just in general, it's hard to continue to run the ball when you're just not converting on third downs. Again, I didn't even know that they were 0 for 8 at that point. Obviously, like you see the points, you see it's not really there, you see a stagnant offense. But it didn't occur to me that the 49ers were actually 0 for 8, 0 for 9. So that makes it much more difficult. Just think about all the extra carries. Even if you were able to convert half of those, let's say late in the fourth quarter, you're 4 of 9 or 4 for 8. That's probably about 10 more carries by your running backs. And so, ideally you would like for the 49ers to run the ball more. And when you just look at the box score, you're going to say, oh man, 49ers, they should have ran the ball more. Well, yeah, if they converted on any third downs, and they just didn't. Like, that's terrible. 1 third down conversion, that's garbage. That's garbage. And I know people, you want to get on Kyle Shanahan for that. Dude, that's on Jimmy. And I know he just got here. And I know, he wasn't there throughout the training camp. And I know he just got a playbook a few weeks ago. But I don't care, dude. You've been a vet long enough you got to convert on some third downs. And he played terrible. I expected more out of him just from just being competent. And he just wasn't. I wasn't expecting to see that. So maybe that's why I'm so caught off guard for him to look as bad. He one-hop throws. Everybody's going to get on him or get on Juwan Jennings about, he kind of dropped the ball or bobbled it on the sideline. Dude, you got to put that on him. He didn't put it on him. How long was that ball in the air? It was long enough. Peacock, you got a bad knee. That ball was hanging in the air long enough for you to get over there and hit Juwan Jennings. It's got to be online. Everybody,
Yep.
arm strength isn't everything. It's not everything. It's not everything until you need it. And there were some throws where he needed the arm strength. That throw he needed to put down. He needed to drive that throw. He don't got the arm for it. There was a one hop over the middle, kind of over the middle. It was Brandon Ayuk going from right to left. And he needed to drive that throw. He can't. He can't. Everybody wanted Jimmy. That's Jimmy and his limitations. Sorry about that. I know I'm going off, but go ahead.
No, I love it.
They wanted Jimmy. I don't want to make it one of those things where it's, because there are a lot of people like, Trey Lance got hurt. And, they're happy about that. Like, no, I'm not happy about the way that Jimmy Garoppolo played. And I don't even want to be the guy, I told you so. Because I think there's a better version of Jimmy. Matter of fact, we've seen a better version. But Jimmy does have his limitations. And when it's not dialed up perfect, you can put on Kyle for not putting him in the perfect position every single time. But no coordinator is really going to do that. You got to execute to some extent. And Jimmy just didn't do it tonight.
There was some rough quarterback play, as Greg Pinelli points out, and he knows himself some quarterbacks, the 49ers and Jimmy Garoppolo included, and Russell Wilson wasn't much better on the other side. Although I will say Russell Wilson in the fourth quarter outplayed Jimmy. He made a couple of plays at the end of the game. Jimmy made a nice couple of plays, but the safety, the interception, those can't happen. And, behind Debo, that play was set up for Debo to go. The one he threw, well, look, so hold on. Okay, we got to come back. We'll talk a little bit more about Jimmy, the performance there, a couple of missed throws that could have really changed the game, I think, for the 49ers here in this one. We got to give out some game balls here, some more keys to why the 49ers did lose this football game in week 3, 11-10 to those Denver Broncos, and Russell Wilson somehow did it again to the 49ers and actually tied, I believe he either tied or surpassed, Croc, the record for a quarterback's wins against the 49ers in franchise history.
I didn't even think about that. Lost to Russell Wilson again.
He surpassed Johnny Unitas, who had the previous record of wins against the 49ers. Now it's Russell Wilson there with Johnny U as the all-time beatenest 49ers quarterbacks. Okay, next we'll get into more of the nitty-gritty on how this game began, middled, and ended with the 49ers loss in Denver. But I got to tell the folks out there about our sponsor, BetterHelp. It can be tough to train your brain to stay in problem-solving mode when faced with life challenges, because there's so many things that enter your life. And I know how difficult it is for me on a day-to-day basis to stay focused, and you're challenged with these things, but you've got to do all of your daily work still. You've still got to be a husband and a father and a mother, and you've got to be a student. You've got to be everything you've got to be. And then you have life's, problems that you have to solve as well along the way. And it can be difficult. And that's why something like BetterHelp and a therapist can help you become a better problem solver, making it easier to accomplish your goals, no matter how big or small. That once a week meeting to make sure you're checking off the things you need to check off in your life to help your mental space and help you really just achieve the things you're trying to achieve when so much can come up in this crazy life. If you're thinking of giving therapy a try, BetterHelp is a great option. It's convenient, accessible, affordable, and entirely online. Get matched with a therapist after filling out a brief survey. It's super easy, and switch therapists at any time if you don't like the initial therapist that you get matched with. When you want to be a better problem solver, therapy can get you there. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOn today to get 10% off your first month. That is BetterHelp.com/LockedOn. Okay, Croc, let's get into this one a little bit more. Of course, Jimmy Garoppolo did not play well. He's not getting the game ball in this game. A couple of throws that really, I think, killed me watching this game because they were so close was the Debo throw late where he was running the slant and he threw it behind him. K'Wan Williams got his hand on the ball because the play design had Kittle, who was lined up on the right side. He's basically kind of just running off a safety and also blocking at the same time. And Debo, if he gets led on that pass coming across the field, he's got Kittle blocking for him up front. He's got just room to run. I don't know if he's going to take it the distance, but there was a ton of space for him. It was going to be a big play. It was a big play, the throw he made early in the game to Debo down the left sideline, that little short moon ball he threw. And it's funny because we crushed Trey Lance for missing, was it Tyler Kroft that had the Y leak in week 1 against the Bears? And he missed it because he tried to be perfect. So you would have hoped to just put it on him, right? And that's kind of what Jimmy did here. He just put him on him. But if it was a better throw, he's off to the races, and it's a touchdown. So it's the difference between a touchdown and just a completion, and it's better than an incompletion. If he leads them and he misses them, you don't want that either, so this is better than that, but that could have been a huge play in a touchdown too. So there was a couple plays on offense that the 49ers missed clearly that could have been big plays if Jimmy was just a little sharper. I did hear the Jimmy Garoppolo interview after the game, and he talked about being maybe a little bit out of rhythm with his teammates. He felt like it was the first week he'd been there for a normal week of practice. And he said on third downs, he just felt like they were out of rhythm a little bit. I don't know if just Jimmy was out of rhythm or everybody together was out of rhythm, but clearly Jimmy Garoppolo did not play a good football game. And the 49ers have to be better than 1 of 10 on third downs. We talked a little bit about the lack of running the football. And of course, Croc, you're right about that. The way you run the football the most is if you have the most total plays and you get that first down again and you can keep running. You convert, you can keep running the ball. That's the Kyle Shanahan way. These big long drives where you're able to continue to run the ball because you keep moving the chains. And then the other part of it that I see a lot of people blaming Kyle Shanahan about is, okay, finally you get George Kittle back. How many targets did George Kittle have in that game? He had 5 targets, 4 catches for 28 yards, 7 yards a pop there. Do you think George Kittle should be fed more in this offense? Not quite to the extreme of Deebo Samuel, because he's getting 10 touches, 5 receiving, 5 rushing in a game. And by the way, Deebo running the ball, 5 carries for 6 yards. And they did say during the telecast that they were talking to the Broncos defensive coordinator during the week, and basically he's like, yeah, we're not going to let Deebo Samuel beat us. And they were all over Deebo Samuel in the run game for the most part. Probably the best team I've seen against Deebo.
5 carries for 6 yards.
Yeah, 5 carries for 6 yards for Deebo Samuel. His long run was 3 yards. So they did do a really good job there. Jeff Wilson was running pretty nice, though. 6.3 yards a carry. He had a nice little 37-yarder. But they tightened up a little bit there, too, because obviously you take that off his total, and that cuts it in half on his other 11 rushes. But George Kittle, should George Kittle be more of a factor? Even Travis Kelce I don't know if you saw this, I can't remember the name of the podcast, but it's Jason Kelce and Travis Kelce, the brothers, the center for the Eagles and the tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs, get together and chop it up. And I saw this a lot this week about how basically they said he's the best tight end in the league. And Jason Kelce's like, hey, stop blocking as well because you're not getting the ball in the passing game as much. And Travis Kelce is like, look, my offense helps me out so much because I get targeted a lot and I'm featured in the offense. And he's like, George Kittle doesn't get thrown the ball enough. Do you agree with Travis Kelce about George Kittle's usage?
We talked about this, I want to say before the start of 2021. And one of my main things I said was, I don't care what happens in the offense, but Deebo Samuel needs 8 targets per game. Right? 8 targets. Give him 8 targets, whether it's in the run game, passing game, etc. He needs 8 potential touches. And George Kittle needs 8 potential touches. Anything less than that, I think, is you're doing yourself a disservice because those guys are so dynamic. Their ability is so pretty much elite, both guys. And I'm looking at the numbers right here, and George Kittle has 5 targets for 28 yards, right? 4 catches out of 5 for 28 yards. And I just feel like that's unacceptable. Now, again, part of it is, and we have to keep going back to this, you converted 1 out of 10 on third down. So that has to kind of be taken into account there. But you have to make it more of a focal point to feature him. And Travis Kelce is right. I did see it. Him and his brother on there. And he's like, dude. And his brother actually said, well, the way George Kittle can be featured more is to not be so good run blocking. If he's bad run blocking, they'll feature him more as a pass catcher. And I'm not saying George Kittle go out there and do that. And I think he enjoys blocking. And I think that's part of the reason why he is so good at it. But, dude, you gotta make it more of a focal point. So there are a lot of people kind of upset at Kyle Shanahan and the way that he called plays in this game. If I am upset at one thing, is not featuring George Kittle more. And we talked about that. We talked about that previously.
Yep.
Where when the whole thing when, kind of, Croc wants to trade George Kittle. No, I don't want to trade him. But use this dude. And I think 4 catches for 28 yards, that is not what George Kittle is capable of doing. And I don't think that's necessarily, again, I get the run game, the run blocking, etc. But I don't think you're paying him to catch 4 passes for 28 yards.
How big of a factor was the loss of Trent Williams going down in that game?
I think that's big to an extent of potentially rushing the quarterback's time clock. And I always talk about time clocks with cornerbacks, right? Where if you're beat off the line of scrimmage right now, your time clock goes out the window and all your technique goes out the window, right? That time clock is sped up and now you're just chasing. And then you'll go for anything that the receiver gives you. And it's kind of similar with a quarterback where if you feel rushed, now you're going to throw before you want to. You're going to, kind of rush some of your mechanics. We know you can't rush mechanics. So there might have been some of that, but I didn't notice it as much. Like, I just felt like Jimmy just missed. Now, part of it is probably, I'm just rusty. I haven't practiced with the guys a whole lot. This is the first week, etc. Maybe that's it. But I think it was more of him just missing as opposed to him just being rushed, even if it had anything to do with Trent Williams. Matter of fact, Trent Williams, when did he leave the game? Third quarter?
I believe so. Third quarter. Jalen Moore came in and gave up a really quick pressure, was just beat instantly. And then it was Colton McKivitz, who's been dinged up. And I guess that's maybe why they went to Moore first. And they realized, now we got to go back to Colton McKivitz at left tackle. And McKivitz came in, kind of got a little bit better. But I saw somebody talk about that earlier in the chat. How many wins do you expect to get when you don't have your number one QB, your number one running back, your number one left tackle? And it's the next man up in the NFL. At some point, injuries do become too much, but Trent Williams has only played every game in a regular. He's only played 16 games in an NFL season twice in his entire career, and he's 33 years old, right? And he's never played 17 games in a season. So you can't even expect that Trent Williams was going to play all the games. You can't come into a season and expect George Kittle is going to play all the games. And you can never go into any season and expect your number one running back is going to play all the games. So you have to be able to make up for some of those things. Now, quarterback's another story. Like, if Josh Allen goes down, how good are the Bills? If Patrick Mahomes gets hurt, how bad are the Chiefs? But going from Trey Lance to Jimmy G, you shouldn't expect to see a huge drop-off right now for the 49ers just because of where Trey Lance was in his development. And in fact, their betting odds went up to win the Super Bowl when Jimmy G replaced him. But clearly, we all know, we've seen Jimmy G for a long time. He does have some limitations, and we saw some of those limitations tonight. And hopefully, as Jimmy said after the game, he'll get back into it and get back into the rhythm with his teammates, because he'll have a chance to be practicing as QB1. But clearly, they were out of whack tonight, and they just weren't converting enough. But they still could have won that game.
They weren't out of whack. Jimmy was out of whack. Like, bro, it's you, right? So did he say they or did he say him?
He said we. He was basically like, this is my first.
See, and so that's the issue, Peacock. We sat up there and heard 22-year-old Trey Lance take responsibility for everything, even playing in the monsoon. We heard Trey Lance take accountability for everything that went wrong in that Bears game. He didn't say anything about the defense. He didn't say anything about, we're out of rhythm. Like, he said, listen, here's all the different areas where I can improve. And then when he watched the film, he even doubled down on that. I need to get better here. I missed this and I did that, right? He took accountability for everything that went wrong in that game. Where's Jimmy's accountability?
Yeah, he's, especially when the safety and throwing the pick at the end.
He ran out the back of the end zone.
Yeah.
And then the funny part, because I'm laughing, people are like, why are you laughing? It's not funny. But I'm laughing because, like Dan Orlovsky, it was almost like he continued to play. And he ran out the back of the end zone and threw a pick six on the same play. Luckily, he just ran out the back of the end zone first.
Yeah. So the better end happened because of the safety. The safety was the better thing that happened in that play, because it could have been much worse. Right?
It's like, I'm laughing at it because
it wasn't as bad, because Orlovsky's was hilarious because he was also like running away from a guy and took multiple steps on the white line. For Jimmy, obviously it's behind him and he's used to taking normal drops and not worrying about it. And he kind of tippy-toed on the line. It didn't look nearly as bad, but it still always looks bad when you're a quarterback and you know that the end zone's 10 yards deep and you know you're close to it. You can't be retreating like that. You got to throw the ball away.
I did call my guy Greg Pinelli, and we saw he's in the chat. I called him and I'm like, bro, what's going on? And he did say this about the and now this is, and the people are like, what about Kyle Shanahan and his accountability? Now here's what I'm gonna make Kyle take accountability for, because Greg Pinelli said it. Why are you backed up against the goal line running a play action screen? That play takes too long to develop. You have a free runner coming at you. of course your quarterback is going to retreat in the back of the end zone. And that's what we saw, as opposed to him getting the ball out of his hands right now. So if there isn't something where I'm like, man, Kyle, and there's the areas, but I just think for the most part, Jimmy Garoppolo is bad. And I expect more out of Jimmy. Maybe that's where my frustration is. I expect him to be better. And we'll probably see that next game. We'll probably see a better version of Jimmy, and people will be like, that's why he's QB1. But we saw tonight why. That's why he replaces himself. I almost said something else. I almost cussed, but.
All right. I think we can give out some game balls here. We might need some submissions to help us get there and give out enough game balls in this 11-10 loss by the San Francisco 49ers against the Denver Broncos. I do want to thank everybody once again for making Locked On 49ers your first listen every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. For your second listen, make sure you check out the Peacock and Williamson NFL show. Myself and former NFL scout Matt Williamson giving you expert NFL analysis in 30 minutes every single day right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's free and available wherever you get your podcast. Plus, check out Croc and Ryan Tracy doing the Locked On NFL Draft daily right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. All right, Croc. We're seeing no game ball here. That's the first one I see. I think special teams is where we have to go to the first game ball. Gold, Mish Wisnowski. We got to go. Our
Samuel
boy
Womack. Can real quick? I know we're getting out.
Mm-hmm.
I know we're giving out game balls. Samuel Womack didn't start. It was Diamador Lenore.
I was surprised. I was like, wait a second. I had to go back in and make sure. Okay, did he get hurt? Was he inactive? And I missed it with Sam Womack. It was Demo in there. That's weird. And Sam Womack has been really clean this season. He hasn't given up like almost anything that I've seen in coverage. So that was a surprise when a guy's got the job. I haven't seen him do anything to lose a job. All of a sudden, Diamador Lenore was in there. And then Sam Womack shows up on special teams, making a great play, jumping in the end zone, knocking the ball back. And our guy Tabor Pepper making sure it stays in the field of play, so they're able to down it on the half-yard line. So that was a great play. A lot of good punts on both sides from this game. And it's not a very good football game for a primetime affair when the best thing that happened for both teams was probably special teams.
So Richard Sherman responded to my tweet, and I had said something about how I was confused with Samuel Womack wasn't out there. Matter of fact, I'll just read my tweet, and I'll read Richard Sherman's response. All right, I said, most 49er fans are confused why he started over Womack, talking about Diamador Lenore. Because Darius Butler was like, Lenore is flying all over, right? And I responded. I said, man, people are confused why he started over Womack. I said, Womack hasn't been bad at all to the naked eye. I said, we'd love to know what's being said in meetings. And Richard Sherman responded to me and said, making some youthful mistakes that show up more in run defense. He's fine, but nickel is probably one of the toughest positions to play as a rook. That's why teams move a vet there and a rook outside in third down situations. That was a subtle flex with talking about, Richard Sherman. Richard Sherman, we're pretty much best friends at this point.
Well, hey, Richard Sherman never met a sentence he didn't enjoy speaking. So, he's now that he's not playing, he's got an opportunity to get out there a little bit more. But that's interesting. Yeah. And I hadn't even noticed that against the run. I don't think the 49ers have been bad against the run either, but that's something I'm going to have to watch for now. And Demo made some plays against the run too. Like he was getting after it against the run. So maybe there is something to that.
Maybe there is. Yeah, but he was flying around, man. He was flying around. He was hitting. He was tackling. So yeah, game ball. Let's not give it to Womack, who was good on special teams. Let's give it that game ball to Diamador Lenore.
Okay, we got an in-season roster battle right there, a depth chart battle for that nickel corner spot, because I thought it was Womack's for now and forever.
Hold on, matter of fact, hold on. Let me take that back.
Okay,
Womack did actually come in, and I don't know how many snaps he played on defense. I don't think very many, right? But the one time I did notice he was in for a play or so, he forced a fumble. And here's one thing I know about guys who like Womack. All right, guys like Womack. I played with some guys. Let's say my guy Bryce Peacock. All right, shout out to my guy Bryce Peacock. I played with him in Portland. He had like 8 interceptions and like 8 forced fumbles. And there are certain guys who just have a knack for forcing takeaways or just being around the ball and something happens, right? And Womack is one of those guys. He picked off 2 passes against the Green Bay Packers, albeit preseason, right? Picked off 2 passes. And I was just like, okay, interesting. I see it. Okay. The next game he plays against the Vikings. What does he do? He bats a ball and it ends up going in a defender's hand for an interception. So he's a part of another takeaway. And then in the last game, he recovers a fumble. All right, so we're talking about him being a part of 4 takeaways in 4 games. And then he gets 1 snap this game that I noticed. And what does he do? He forces a fumble. There are certain guys that just have a knack for making plays. And I think Womack happens to be one of those. So hopefully, if it is run game, like my best friend, Richard Sherman, says it's, you know what I'm saying, we're best friends now. If it is one guy, the run game or whatever that he needs to improve on, please improve on that. Because the more he's out there, I think the better your team is, your defense is. And the defense was great. I think they could be even better if they have a playmaker out there like Womack. And Lenore, do your thing. Hope you play as well. But I need Womack on the field, wherever that is.
Guys on the outside were making plays too. Hufanga continues to make a ton of plays. Tashawn Gibson just coming in off the street, and he's looked really good at free safety as well. The defense is balling out. Mostly what I'm seeing here, I'm not seeing a ton of people recommending guys for game balls. We're seeing a lot of anti-game balls here. What about Kinlaw? I've seen a couple people call out Kinlaw that he looked bad, and he definitely was getting turned in the run game and creating some space there inside. No Eric Armstead in this game. GTC says DJ Jones looked good. Would you rather have DJ Jones or Javon Kinlaw right now, Croc?
I would say in the few plays where I recognize the guys, right? So it's hard when you're watching it on TV. And tonight I'm watching the game for the most part like everyone else, not really evaluating just, okay, what's happening in the game. I know we got to come on here, Locked On 49ers, and talk about it. If we're just talking about what I saw from that standpoint, and I guess we're talking about kind of flashes, I would say DJ Jones was better. Now, maybe I'll go back and watch. And again, I don't know guys' responsibilities and whatnot, but maybe I see something different after rewatching it. But just in the naked eye and just watching it, I thought DJ Jones was a little bit more impactful.
Yep,
throughout the game.
I agree. And DJ Jones is better in the role that they're asking Javon Kinlaw to play right now, to be that sort of one technique nose tackle and hold up inside. And Javon Kinlaw will make some big plays, but I've noticed that a lot throughout his career is the consistency for Kinlaw, because he'll make some huge play and everyone's like, oh man, Kinlaw, he's awesome. But then when you really watch him play in and play out, he does get stood up. He does get turned too often in the run game. And sometimes he'll try to go for some, big power pass rush, and he'll get himself just way out in a place where he's not supposed to be. And he's not doing even that. Remember his rookie year, he had that interception. And I think it was John Lynch after the game was like killing him for it. He's like, he's in the wrong place, not even supposed to be there doing that.
We call that bad money. You know what I'm saying? So there's good money, bad money, right? On the crossover episode with the Seattle Seahawks, I talked about the interception I got off of Geno Smith in practice. And that's bad money. I was not supposed to be there. Geno might not remember it, but he just randomly threw a pass. His receiver wasn't in the area. I busted a coverage, but he just somehow threw the ball to me. So yeah, I can run into the end zone and I could, it looks like I got to intercept, whatever. But it's a bad play. That's what we call bad money. I was not doing what I was supposed to do. So when John Lynch says, Kinlaw, he really wasn't supposed to be there or whatever, but okay, we benefited off it and we won. But in the sense of how did the guy play, that's a bad money play because you weren't doing what you were supposed to do. And I think when people talk about him getting turned, there were a few plays that I, like off the top of my head, I saw him literally get turned. As opposed to DJ Jones.
He's facing the sideline with a blocker right here, and there is a gaping hole, especially as far as NFL holes are concerned in the middle. There is just a massive hole for either Melvin Gordon or Javonte Williams to run through, and he's literally facing directly at the sideline getting blocked, and that is textbook getting blocked in the NFL.
Well, I saw number 99 facing my TV screen.
Right.
But then flip, to the other side, and I watched DJ Jones, and I see somebody in the chat say he didn't finish. But I watched DJ Jones, and there was a play, and I just remember off the top of my head, I'm like, wow, like he stuffed that play. I mean, stout versus the run, where it was just like, boom, they could not move him from there. And the play went somewhere else, and somebody else might have made a tackle or whatever. But I saw where them kind of blowing up that play started with DJ Jones in the middle. And that's where you kind of miss them. And you want Kinlaw to be effective, at least in that area. And again, I noticed a few plays. I don't know how many plays the Denver Broncos ran, but maybe it's a small sample size. But just off of what I noticed, for the most part, there wasn't anything that was great. There was one time where I did see him walk a guy back dang near into Russell Wilson's lap. So I do want to give him that credit. But he's not getting the game ball.
Right. No, definitely not. And he was drafted to be more of a 3-tech, but you got Kinlaw, or you got Armstead in there now, and he's being asked to be more of a nose tackle, but he actually lost weight this offseason. So the 49ers, I think, could use that true nose tackle player that DJ Jones was, but clearly the defense, that was not the reason the 49ers lost this game. So even with that, getting blocked up a few times, the 49ers defense was fine in this game, and they caused some problems. The Niners couldn't stay on the field. And I thought obviously if it wasn't for the 49ers offense not doing their job, not converting first downs, then the Broncos wouldn't even have scored 11 points in this game. Nominations for Juice and Bosa. I've seen a couple of people say Juszczyk should get one just for the toe tap reception on the sideline. That was a great play. I don't know if it's enough for a game ball, but that was fun to see a fullback do that. And I've talked before how, I thought maybe Juszczyk gets a little bit too featured in this offense, like throwing the ball 40 yards down the field, but he clearly is a really good receiving fullback. He's the best receiver in the league for a fullback. And I had not seen something like that from him. So that was at least fun to see. And for Bosa, he had the trip sack. I'm not going to give him a game ball today. He's good. Bosa's always good. You don't have to worry about him, but he kind of got away with one there with the trip of, he actually had a little sly smile.
He got a sack?
He tripped Russell Wilson.
I didn't even know that. He did force a holding penalty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was 4 sacks, I believe, for the 49ers, and I was surprised to see that in the stat line because it didn't really feel like they got after Russell Wilson that much, but he always makes so many plays with his legs and evades rushers. Bosa got a sack. He kind of stuck his leg out and tripped Russell Wilson. They talked about it, and they didn't give him the tripping penalty. Let's see. There was a sack for Kerry Hyder, Drake Jackson, and Kevin Givens. Kevin Givens just ran right through Bowles, the left tackle. That was a nice pass rush. I love seeing that power rush when the offensive line is powerless to stop you.
Yeah.
Let's see. I think we go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, as it pertains to game balls, can we give one to Hufanga again? This is a guy that going into this game was the second highest graded safety in all of the NFL. The only person that was ahead of him was Minkah Fitzpatrick. And I thought, at the very least, throughout this game, he flashed. And not so much in coverage as we saw in the first 2 weeks, where he intercepted a pass against the Chicago Bears and nearly intercepted a pass against Seattle, but ended up getting intercepted regardless. This is a guy who has made several plays on the ball on the back end where a lot of people are saying, oh, he's a liability in coverage. I haven't seen that version of him yet. And I would say he's been very good against the run and had tackle for loss. So we got to give Hufanga a game ball.
Yeah, I feel good about that one. I love what I see more and more from Hufanga every week, and I've become a fan. He's fun to watch play. I like hearing him speak. The way he's focused is just awesome, and he's so good around the line of scrimmage, and he has not been that liability in coverage that we were worried about. A couple of busts in the first game, which I think is just some weirdness. It wasn't like he can't cover bust. It was just like, too aggressive going after the quarterback running, left his responsibility open.
I think we disagree on that, but yeah.
Torched. D'Amico Ryans even said it, so don't get mad.
D'Amico Ryans is wrong. I know more than D'Amico Ryans.
Go ask Sherman about it. Maybe he'll let you know.
All right, I'm at Sherman. That's my best friend anyway.
So let's see. Charvarius Ward, what do you think? Game ball for Charvarius all over the place.
I think he played very well. I'd say really both corners. There were a couple times where I felt like maybe they didn't challenge themselves as much as I would like. I think it was Charvarius Ward who, this is a key point to bring up. I think Charvarius Ward gave up a back shoulder fade. And Russell Wilson did the little signal. And immediately, and I, scrolling through Twitter, and maybe Charvarius Ward isn't on Twitter, but immediately I went back to, after week 1, Tyler Lockett, they put this clip out, and maybe it was the Seattle Seahawks or whatever it was. It was kind of like he was mic'd up. And Russell Wilson did the signal, and he had told a player prior to that, like, hey, if you see that, it's a fade. and he was going to the sideline. He's telling guys like, hey, what? Hey, and there's a fade ball, and he's like, hey, they haven't changed their signals. They haven't changed their signals. I saw that, right? So Russell Wilson's doing his audibling, and he does this, and he kind of like looks at Sutton a little bit, but not enough to make it like noticeable. And I said, he gave that signal that Tyler Lockett was saying, and I'm mic'd up. And next thing you know, fade ball. And I was like, God, like, are y'all not watching? There should be somebody, like, even if it's not Travis Ward, somebody needs to be responsible for watching the social media of the Seahawks and these other teams or whatever, and then saying, oh, okay, let me at least make our defensive coordinator aware of this. It might not be the players, but somebody has to make them aware, and nobody did. But Eric Crocker is sitting on his couch drinking his whatever this is, and I see it.
Yeah, and that's tough. Yeah, because you're focused on so much as a player. How do you get that to the player quick enough? Because it's right before the play. Like the ball gets snapped within 5 seconds of that too. So
but you got to see it though.
You got to know beforehand. Be prepared when you see that. You know what it is. Or Fred Warner sees it and it's like, hey, fade ball, right? So someone's got to see that and call it out.
There's this kind of saying about jocks or dumb jocks, right? Everybody says that. NFL players are extremely smart. And one reason why I can play probably more in the NFL with my limitations of not being a speed guy. You know, as a 4.55 guy, if you're not very fast, then you have to be able to play a step ahead mentally. Well, I just couldn't grasp it. It was so much and things were happening so fast, I wasn't quite there yet. All right, now, guys like Travis Ward, like you are, for you to play this long in the NFL, he was an undrafted guy. For him to be where he's at now, where he got big money from the 49ers, you are smart. You are able to retain that information that Eric Crocker was not. So, with things happening as fast as it is, you got to notice that, and you have to see that, and it registers quick. Everything registers super fast, and he didn't register. Whether he just might not have been aware of it. And that's the thing. He might have registered it and saw what was kind of going on, but didn't know anything that it meant. And I think that's where somebody else is supposed to make these guys aware.
Croc, CB Niners wants to know, since he's never played football, have you ever been a part of a game that was that atrocious offensively? And probably not in the Arena League. You guys put up points in the Arena League.
Yeah, we put up points. I have been 2010. Again, I live in Arkansas now. I just recently moved back, but playing for Arkansas Monticello, Division II. We played against Henderson State at their house, and it was 33-0 at halftime. And then we ended up scoring on a blocked field goal that Eric Crocker ran back to the crib. But I don't know if we scored offensively that game.
Wow. So Croc scored defensively to try to make up for some offense that his offense wasn't putting up on the board. See, that's the kind of talent Croc had. Yeah. That's why he's picking off Geno Smith in Jets training camp.
Right. On blown coverages and bad money.
Bad Money's a good nickname. I like that for you, Eric Bad Money Crocker.
I'm going to change my Twitter name to that.
That's fantastic stuff. All right. I think we've done. Do we give Wishnowsky? I feel like I'm hard on Wishnowsky because of his draft spot, but he had some good punts. I mean, it's the whole coverage unit, because you got to cover the punt as well. You got to knock it back in. You got to down the punt. But Mitch, up there in the elements too. Like the ball's flying up there. It's got to be fun to punt in Denver.
I will say this, and let's kind of give somewhat of an outlook. I know we're about to get out of here now, but can you give some type of positive outlook on what today means and where the 49ers are headed? Because if I'm not mistaken, I believe they played the Rams next. So yes. What do the 49ers have to do? And I know we'll talk more about that, but just to give some sense of hope to end this podcast, what do the 49ers got to do to beat the Rams? With what you saw tonight, what things have to be immediately changed?
Well, it's really simple, because the 49ers are good defensively, and they're going to be good. So even when they lose games, it's going to be by very little that they lose those games, because their defense is so good. The offense just has to do something, right? And Jimmy Garoppolo is even the Jimmy that we know who Jimmy is. He's better than he was tonight, usually, even when he's kind of bad. Like, there's some bad Jimmy games, some better Jimmy games. You can't have just bad Jimmy show up. You can't give the other team that many opportunities to get back on the field. And so the 49ers, I think, won't in a lot of ways. And so I think the 49ers are going to be fine this year. They're going to win a lot of football games. How far can They go with Jimmy. They've gone to the Super Bowl before. They've gone to the NFC Championship game before. They were 3-5 last year, right? And they turned it around. So the 49ers are going to be okay if they're able to run the ball like they were tonight. Really, it's the turnovers. And Jeff Wilson, that was a big turn. Like if Jeff Wilson doesn't fumble the ball, did the 49ers win the game? Even despite everything else that happened in the game. So just that one extra turnover that can't happen. And we talked about it actually, Croc. You nailed it. You said the 49ers could overcome one Jimmy Garoppolo interception in just about every single game. And they could have in this game if it wasn't for also the safety, not being able to convert on third downs, the other fumbles. So that's where the 49ers, I think in week one, it was weird. We've seen it in that loss. Now we've seen it in both losses. There was just a lot of weirdness to the game. The 49ers aren't going to be that bad on third downs. And they're not going to turn the ball over, be -3 in the turnover category every single game. And their defense is going to be good, and they can hang their hat on it just like they have in their other successful seasons recently. So they're going to be in it. Jimmy won't be as bad next week and probably won't be as bad in most games.
Right. I agree. Well, I agree that we will see a better version of what Jimmy Garoppolo is.
Yeah. We might see more bad Jimmy. There's bad Jimmy that shows up from time to time, but it won't always look that bad as it did tonight because it was off. And there's something to it. Like Jimmy saying the rhythm was off. There was something definitely off where it's like, Jimmy, the throw's there. Make the throw. What's going on here? Did he expect the break to happen at a different time? And it's hard for me to put my head in that spot for an NFL quarterback, because if you think that your timing is boom, 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 back foot throw, and that's where the throw is going to go, and he's going to break off right here, and he breaks off the route sooner, now the timing's messed up. Now you're in a half step. I don't know how hard that is to overcome if it really is just sort of a timing thing where Trey's timing was maybe a little different, and Trey was the quarterback all training camp, and now you jumped in and you're running some of these plays and you're trying to get the timing down with your guys. I don't know how difficult that is. Maybe there is something to that, and that's maybe what Jimmy Garoppolo was alluding to. So that's making some excuses, but that's what you hope is that's the kind of thing that you clear up in the coming weeks now with Jimmy Garoppolo taking those QB1 snaps that he didn't get any of all year long until a few weeks before the season started.
You better hope that's the issue, because
actually,
the 49ers are facing 1-3.
He didn't get any QB1 snaps until this week. He was getting scout team snaps before that.
Right. 49ers are facing 1-3. That's an issue. How do you beat the Rams?
The Rams are beatable. Every team is beatable. Like, this thing's wide open. The NFL is weird this year. The NFL is weird. That's the other part of it. Like, the Jacksonville Jaguars are first place, right?
Yeah.
And here, how about this for a teaser? Because I've seen a lot of this in the chat. Is we got to talk about Mike McDaniel and what's going on with the Miami Dolphins and maybe how big of a loss he has been to the San Francisco 49ers. I think that's a topic for tomorrow's episode of Locked On 49ers. I do want to thank everybody for jumping into the live chat. Appreciate everybody for making Locked On 49ers your first listen. Croc and I back tomorrow right here, Locked On 49ers.